Nate Stood, Superintendent, Perry Local Schools. Today we are back for another episode of the Perry Panthers podcast. Joining me today are our advisors for the Link crew. To my left is Christina Miller, Carly Cundiff, and David Olszewski, along with Assistant Superintendent Mr. Rich Leone. First and foremost, if you guys want to just take a second to share with us a little bit about your history and what you do here.
Sure, I can start. Again, like you said, my name is Christina Miller. I'm a counselor here at Perry High School and got asked 5 years ago if I'd be a part of a new program and go to a training in Cincinnati, and I got the pleasure to go with my partners over here in crime, and we help put on a freshman orientation. So that's my part, and I feel like I have a special part in it as a school counselor because I get to see kids in a different aspect here at school, so I absolutely adore this program and love watching it work.
Hi, I'm Carly Cundiff. This is my 6th year here at Perry. I've done my entire career here at Perry. And when I was a first-year teacher, the opportunity to run Link Crew was presented at a staff meeting. And mentorship and leadership have been things that I've always been super passionate about, and part of the reasons I got into teaching. So when this opportunity was presented, I jumped right on it, volunteered. We had a great weekend in Cincinnati, figuring out how this program works, and just 5 years later, seeing where it is now, I couldn't be prouder of the program. I think I speak for all three of us when I say we're super proud of how far it's come.
I'm David Olszewski. This is my 9th year here at Perry Local Schools, and I was, same year that we all started, I got involved with Link Crew. Came about in a staff meeting, and I knew I wanted to be all in on that, and the program has really kind of evolved and taken on a life of its own. It's kind of really become more and more a part of the culture here at Perry High School. And I think one of the best things about it is that we're now at the point where every single student here at the high school has in some capacity gone through all of our freshman orientation and all of our aspects of Link Crew.
So just basically more or less is a big part of the program going back to last week. First day of school is Wednesday. Our freshmen are the only one that are on campus. Our sophomores through seniors do not have to attend the first day for the purpose of basically conducting a freshman orientation. Before we talk a little bit more about what that's like what is the essence, the main purpose of Link Crew?
The main purpose of Link Crew is that mentorship. So while freshmen do have to be here on that day, we have about, this year I think we had 130 some Link leaders. Those are our juniors and seniors who want to be a part of this program and want to make Perry a better place. Maybe when they were a freshman, they struggled a little bit with the transition from middle to high school. So the main purpose is just to ease that transition. Show all of these freshmen somebody that they can be like, or who's interested in the same things like them, or looks like them. So just kind of make sure, it's going to be okay. We got you. It's going to be awesome. Here's why high school's great.
Going on that, I feel one thing that makes the program work is that it is primarily student-led, which is something I am very proud of. I know these two are as well. I mean, yes, we go through a lot of training with our upperclassmen to be prepared for freshman orientation, but I know as a staff member here, as somebody who has a lot of great connections with kids, there is nothing like kids building connections with other kids. And so, like Carly said, that when kids can find somebody that's maybe older than them and more comfortable here at the high school that they feel they connect with, it makes the transition so much easier on them. And
with what we have here, we have so many families who have had a long lineage of going to Perry High School. We've got kids sitting in classrooms that their parents sat in. And so it's really kind of great to see a lot of that longevity, but we also have a lot of people who haven't been to Perry High School, who are either transfers in or the high school represents something new for them. It's a great way to kind of bring everyone to the same level and welcome them all in one big push, I think.
So before we get into maybe what that day specifically looks like, how do you go about selecting students to serve as leaders?
So it's a process. We usually start in about February of the year prior, and we start just by asking teachers, because teachers know their students the best. And what we ask them is look, we're not looking for 100 NHS, student council, super duper involved kids. We want every kid. We want kids who maybe aren't involved in everything. We want a kid from every single club. So we ask teachers to look at every aspect of their profession, clubs they advise, sports they coach, in their classrooms, people they see in the hallway, and recommend. From those recommendations, those students can apply. If they don't get a recommendation, they can also apply. And then we're just looking for a couple of things. We're looking for students who are good communicators. We're looking for students who enjoy Perry and want to make Perry the best place that we know it is. But more than anything, we're just looking for students who are welcoming and kind. That's like the biggest thing. We can train a kid how to be a leader during that 10 hours of training that each leader gets. But that kindness and that welcoming energy, that's something that we need them to be. And so far, we've had incredible luck with being just blessed with awesome leaders in that respect.
What's the interest like from our juniors and seniors in terms of being a part of it?
I mean,
Huge.
we've had over 200, almost verging on about 300 applicants every year from this point. I mean, and it kind of gets around more and more. Like, usually around January now, people are kind of hitting us up like, hey, like, when are those? Are we doing that thing next year? Is that like, you know, like, I'm not like really super interested, but like, I would like to know like a lot. And so.
And the awesome part about that is that because it's a junior senior program, we get returners.
Yeah.
And our returners, the ones that have done coming back for a second year, are invaluable because not only were they freshmen, but now they've been link leaders for a year, and now they can be leaders of leaders. So that development of furthering leadership, becoming a leader of leaders, is so great too.
So tell us a little bit about that 10-hour training. Like, I mean, when that happens, what that looks like. You know, what are some of the things you really kind of focus on during that time?
It's intense. So, and that's where you become very proud of this group of kids because they are giving up a Saturday and a Sunday.
Their last Saturday.
Their
and
last
Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday.
So you say last Saturday and Sunday. This would
Summer.
be just before
School starts, yep.
Yes, and
Very
they come there, and I'm telling you what, they have fun. But the training is not, it's intense. Like, we are exhausted. We're 3 grown adults. We are exhausted by the end. But they are so involved, and watching them do the activities, get involved, and it is absolutely amazing to watch. But it is a long 2 days, and we recognize that. These kids are involved in so much outside of Link Crew. All of them. Almost all of the kids are involved in so much, and they give up this time just to make it better for Perry. They are giving up this time to make it better for these kids, for these freshmen coming in, and that's just invaluable.
Throughout that 10 hours, we have a whole bunch of structured activities
Yes.
and plans, but we also have kind of a go with the flow attitude because from year to year, there's a whole bunch of things that we have to take into account, like what's the size of this class, how many people are
Yeah.
we working with. And usually when they first show up, there's like that little bit of like apprehension, like they're all a little like, oh no, what's going on, and everything like that. Some of the seniors kind of show up and they're like, yeah, here we go. And then like, I do a lot of the bleacher work and some of the other parts of training, and so like I get to see them at the very beginning, and they're all a little cloistered, and then by the very end, like they are all like they're dabbing each other up. They are just like they're so excited. People who weren't gonna ever probably talk to each other in the halls are now partners and are trying to coordinate. Hey, how are we gonna work with these 10 freshmen? How are we gonna like do this? And like we've seen some real, I think, lasting friendships form.
I
by,
love
like,
that you bring that up
yeah.
because that is so cool to watch. Like, some of these kids become friends that were never friends before. So it is true. That is absolutely true. It's good for the upperclassmen too.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your training. So you mentioned you heard about this at a staff meeting about 5 years ago. You say Cincinnati, went to Cincinnati.
Yep.
So what was that? Is this a national program, a national club, and then how was your training?
It is a national program, so it's based out of California. We actually heard about it because Hoover does it. So once they started, and it was great there, they brought it here. We were in Cincinnati for 3 days in February during the Super Bowl weekend of 2019. And it was 3 15-hour days.
Yeah.
We started, we got breakfast, and then it was pretty much the morning was going through everything the freshmen would do.
Yeah.
So everything that our leaders are trained on, everything the freshmen do, we did standing in as freshmen. So it was very interesting having it as a group of adults and then seeing it as a group of teenagers. And then the afternoon was a lot of like leadership development. Here's how you take a kid and you make them into a better leader. David did a lot of improv stuff in college. So it was a lot of like, here's how you work with somebody who's doing this. Here's how you build on something. Then we did the program and we went back for a second training, another 2-day training in the fall after our first freshman orientation back in Cincinnati. And that was like a recap of here's how orientation went, here's what you do with the rest of the year. Because in its purest form, Link Crew is a year-long program. Because the freshmen are building that bridge for a whole entire year. It's not just a one-day program.
And one of the big tenets of Link Crew has been to experience everything, not so much in a traditional, like, we're going to sit in a meeting room and we're just going to, like, be told things. It's all about play, and it's all about making sure that everything's as hands-on and as dynamic as possible. we did so many icebreakers. We did so many like just fun little getting up and movement activities, and really kind of by the end, I mean, there were people again, like, you know, when you go to those meetings and you're kind of like looking at that person like, I don't know if I'm going to get along with that person, and then by the very end you're like quadrilacha and everything like that with them. It's just great.
It was probably some of the best training
Yeah.
I've ever
Yeah.
experienced, and I can honestly say that. And I've been through a lot of professional development, a lot of good training. This was some of the best. And you go there, and I was totally outside of my comfort zone. I'm like dancing in a circle with grown adults, and I'm thinking, this is not happening to me right now. What have they done? But by the end, it clicked. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. Yeah.
Dancing in a circle.
Oh,
with grown
Oh,
adults.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sounds like a training I need to get to.
Yeah.
So you talked about your training. Give us a little taste of what it looks like when you're with the kids that weekend before. Like, just give us maybe like one or two activities you guys love to get them going as far as training goes.
So one of the big things that we do start out with is we're trying to kind of bring everybody in and kind of just really fill the tent. So we start out with Simon Says, and we play like no holds bar, street rules, Simon Says, authentic, way to go. And it's all about just getting them to like check in and be a little silly, be okay being comfortable, and kind of just take down some of those barriers that some of them are already kind of throwing up about being in the group. And by the very end, we mentioned dancing in a circle. By the very end, we have we have this little kind of dance that we learned as like an offhand thing at the Link Crew training. They were like, hey, why don't you guys try this? And we took it, and 1 year, it was our first
It was
year.
our very first year. It's
Yeah.
called Ride the Pony.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's a big circle dance. Every kid's involved. It's called Ride the Pony. We did our first year just as like a time filler, the very first time we did this.
Yeah.
The next year, those returners were begging, can we please ride the pony?
Yeah.
Can we please ride the pony? And now every single year we have returners that when they first
love
check
it.
in, they're like,
Yeah.
when are we riding the pony?
Yeah, like when's like
When is it going to happen? And so they love it. So that's like our team bonding thing. And then we heard it was like the girls' soccer team started riding the pony, the volleyball team
caught
started
on.
doing
Yeah.
it. I think the cross country team started
team,
doing
yeah.
it. And it's just like, it's a silly little dance, but they love it.
Yeah.
It bonds them.
It's
together.
amazing to watch. Like he said, we're doing Simon Says, like, he does a lot of that. Like, I give that man so many props. But I sit there and watch. I'm like, they are literally, these 16, 17-year-old kids are literally playing Simon Says right now, and they're all smiling. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
No
yeah.
one's on their phones.
No.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Everyone's
yeah.
together. It's great.
Yeah.
So my first year as building principal here, which would have been 3 years ago at this point, I remember it's one of the first events of the year, and I remember asking you three, oh, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? Like, when do I get to talk to the kids? When do the teachers talk to the kids? I remember Carly kept telling me, like, yeah, like that doesn't happen.
Don't step over.
Like the whole point of this is for like them to come in and interact with their link leaders and not interact with necessarily teachers. So a lot of times you think orientation, you think they're going to have a day with the teachers, walk around the school, open up their locker, feed them lunch, go home. And the purpose of this is really to connect them with some older kids that are, like you said, leadership driven. So talk about the importance of that with the program.
That's one of my favorite things about Freshman Orientation Day is, and this was stressed to us at our training, is that you don't do rules on Freshman Orientation. We are not doing that because we want kids to be so excited to come back the next day. We don't want them to be stressing out about those things. The first day of school is for rules. We will get there, the rules are important. But we are here to have fun and build connections. We play this game during Freshman Orientation where a leader and 5 freshmen have to pop balloons behind them. And that's like one of the big first competitions, like the first challenge of high school. A student named Logan McCracken did it last year. He still gets recognized in the hallway as Balloon Boy.
Yeah.
And kids high five him. Like, that's a connection that was built because of freshman orientation. And it's so great to see all of that mixed up.
A big chunk of the day too is, and it's kind of one of the things, it was interesting because our staff was really apprehensive at first when we explained it, because the majority of the day is 2 leaders in a room with 10 freshmen and no direct supervision from an adult or anything like that. We're out here like roaming the halls, but we train our leaders so completely and so thoroughly that they are working together, they're bonding. They're doing about 2 hours of games and team bonding and leadership activities with the freshmen, building that small cohesive unit, and the kids just run with it. Every year I have staff come up and they're like, oh man, it It was really chaotic. But you know what? The very next day, way smoother because everyone knew where their locker was. Because the kids understood a bit more about the Perry culture. Every senior and junior who's a part of Link Crew gets a shirt. And so they're all walking around with these tie-dye shirts that they all make together. And as they're walking around with their shirts, if a freshman has a question, they know to just look for someone with that tie-dye shirt. And because they've worked with that person, it might be someone that is their leader throughout the year. But it could also just be someone that they happen to bump into. And it's like, hey, can you help me find my way down to the ROTC room? They're like, yeah, I got you. Don't worry about it. And so it's really kind of making that family environment and that family dynamic, making sure everybody has a stake in it.
The shirt's the same every year? Have you gone to tie-dye now? 'Cause I remember the first year.
They used
I
to be
was
bright yellow.
Yeah.
They used
Yeah.
to be
Kids didn't
so
like 'em.
yellow. The kids hated them. So the past 2 years, they have tie-dyed them themselves, which is so fun
They
because they
love
get to
it.
do whatever they want with it.
Yep. And they have their partners, and so they'll be like, "Oh, hey, do we want to do like matching patterns? Do we want to do like red and blue? Like how do we?" And so like, it's more about empowering the kids. It's all so student driven,
is.
and it's about making sure that we will give them all the tools and all the support necessary. We want them to, because two of the big things that we talk about with Link Crew is go big and total support. And we extend that not just to our leaders, but we expect our leaders to extend that to the entire student body. We want them to live their biggest dreams and to go for everything that they can. And we want them to feel supported and feel encouraged with all those things. Take those risks, jump in, make something happen.
So Carly, you kind of mentioned like in totality, this is kind of viewed as a, not just a orientation day, but almost an orientation year. Are there any other kind of like follow-ups to the initial orientation that takes place throughout the school year that continues to offer opportunities for our kids to connect?
So when this was first introduced to us, they said this is a 3 to 5 year rolling program. Like you will not get it for 5 years. We're going to give ourselves 4 to 6 because of COVID. But there are lessons that occur throughout the year. 2 years ago when we had advisory, we did probably monthly or at some point every other week lessons that every single freshman got about cooperation, teamwork, study skills, the importance of making friends with people who are different than you.
Honesty.
Things like honesty was one of them, academic honesty and just in general honesty. Now we're bringing that back once a quarter. So every freshman will be able to get at least 4 of those lessons taught by the link leaders. We train them and then they teach them just of some of those softer skills that students need and that are better delivered by their peers. We also try to do some fun activities throughout
And
the
I
year
don't mean
too.
to
No, you're
interrupt.
good.
So are those continued lessons? Are our link leaders involved?
Yep,
Yeah,
they're the ones
loaded
that
in
teach it.
Yeah.
Last year we did a freshman tailgate that hopefully we'll get to do again this
Yep.
year, and that was really nice because our link leaders showed up for that and took the kids over to the football game, and we felt a lot of kids showed up as freshmen that maybe wouldn't have gone to the football game because they felt like they were getting to walk over with their link leaders, and it made them a little more confident in going over to the jungle. So hopefully we can get that going again.
Perry High School has such deep roots when it comes to culture. When you're a new freshman walking in, and you just want to be a part of it, it can be a little bit hard to know what the path is to kind of get there. And so a lot of our jungle leaders are also
Link
link
leaders, they are.
leaders, and so they do a great job kind of being like, hey, we want the freshmen in here. Let's get them in. Let's teach them the chants. Let's teach them the cheers. Let's really kind of keep building up that camaraderie that we take to all of our sporting events, and that really kind of shows that we're here to support Perry. We're here. We're proud. We're not going anywhere.
So the first 2 years I got to witness, I think I was in the cafeteria for the intro.
Yeah.
And it's really neat to watch the teachers sort of line the halls, and then after breakfast the kids all go through the line, the teachers are clapping them. But so this year for me, I got to see both ends. I have a freshman's son, and then my daughter was a link leader, senior. And I will tell you, it was really neat just dropping him off this year because you guys have the kids outside when the buses show up in the front and in the back.
Yep.
And we're parent drop off, and the kids are sort of having a good old time
Oh,
out
yeah.
there. Talk about that. What do you think that does for the kids? I'll tell you after what it did for Gino, but what do you think it does for the kids overall of coming in? Obviously, first day of school, nervous, big building.
I think sometimes it can be a little bit of a double-edged sword because we really hype up these link leaders. We get them super stoked to welcome these freshmen. The big thing that we say is listen, it's got to be on all day. There's no downtime. It's bell to bell. Here we go. And they kind of take that and they really deliver on that. I think it can be a little intimidating, but I would imagine also it's very reassuring.
With the cheering and
with the cheering and everything like that. With a lot of it can. If you're a parent dropping your kids off and just a bunch of juniors and seniors in tie-dye shirts are just, whoa, yeah, you get that backpack. It's like, oh, okay, all right, like nothing but positive reinforcement. But it can be a lot, I think.
Yeah,
I think it
I will
depends
tell
on
you
the kid,
for me it was neat to watch as
Yeah.
a parent. Dropping off day one of school and all the kids. He gets out of the car, they're yelling his name.
Yep.
They're yelling my younger son's name too because they're playing soccer with him. So I thought that was neat. I mean, I just think it's a very welcoming environment, and I think some of it takes the edge off a little
Yeah.
bit. Like some kids are nervous or stressed, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of juniors and seniors jumping around, going crazy, having a good time with them. I think that helps a lot.
Making
as far
you
as,
dress up like something that you don't want to dress up
Yeah.
like.
yeah,
and-
breaking
yeah.
the ice a little bit.
Yeah.
So good.
It kind of helps create that culture of buy-in because having the leaders be that excited and that motivated and that driven throughout the day, the freshmen's walls kind of also come down. By the very end, they're doing a tour of the whole building, and part of the tour is that they all have to, all the link leaders have a theme for their group. And so we've got freshmen going around the halls. We had a whole bunch dressed as like Ninja Turtles,
Ghostbusters,
Pirates. We have all these themes, and all these freshmen who
They buy into it and they
yeah,
like it.
who
Yeah.
at the very beginning just want to like almost disappear, or like, oh, take a picture of me, like, oh, come on, like they're excited to be there. It's really transformative, and it's really cool to see.
What's next for the Link Crew? So I know each year you guys try to expand. You come up with some ideas. You've helped out before with some other events like Veterans Day, help and greet veterans as they come in. I know your kids have done that. Is there something like a next step for next year?
The lessons are probably the biggest hurdle this year, just because we're trying to figure out that we were able to get, the guidance was able to get every freshman in a study hall opposite their lunch. So we're going to do our lessons then. We are also trying to get a 5K started for the spring, linked up 5K through Canton Runs in downtown Canton, just to more outreach, get more kids involved, do a little fundraising so we can further the program a little bit.
Outstanding.
Very good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. As you can see, our greatest successes and achievements here at Perry High School are largely through our people and the connections and relationships they make. And Link Crew plays a big part and role in continuing to build upon that culture that exists here at Perry High School. Thanks so much. Very much appreciate you joining us for another edition of the Perry Panthers podcast. Have a great day. Go Perry.